Paul always sought to move forward because he had a purpose and he knew it. That wasn't enough. He knew it, but he also lived that purpose. He had a mission and he set out to fulfill it. He was always setting out. He was always moving forward. The gospel was in Jerusalem. Then it went to Samaria, or Judah, Samaria. And now it's got to go to the ends of the earth, so now it's going. So God keeps moving everything. It's God who's doing it. They're not planning it. God moves on Peter, shows them the vision. God moves on Antioch, gives them a prophetic word. God keeps pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. God is expanding his will. He's making sure it's going to happen one way or the other, even with people. And they spent, verse 28, a long time with the disciples. They're probably away from the Antioch, from the home congregation for at least a year and a half, some say more. But now they're spending a long time back with them. Important thing, to bring your blessings home. You're blessed by God, bring it home. You can't just be blessed here if you're not bringing it home. Bring it home. Ruth was blessed in the field of Boaz, gleaning it. But she had to bring those blessings back home to Naomi for the whole story to come to its fulfillment. You're blessed, bring it home. Your joy, you have joy, bless your family with it. God bless you. Bless the people in your life. Bless your relatives. Bring it home. Bring it where you live. Bless it on your job. Bring the blessings. They had good news to share. They weren't sharing about the problems. They could have, because they had problems. They had hardship, persecution. Paul got stoned almost to death. They got run out of one place, run out of another place, but it doesn't say they talked about that. I mean, they might have mentioned it, but they don't talk about it. You see, when we come home to heaven, we won't be dwelling on all the problems you had. You won't be dwelling, because everything that happened, you're going to see how God used it for his glory, every single thing. So you're not going to be dwelling, you're not going to be complaining in heaven. I mean, if you're in hell, you can complain. In heaven, you're not going to complain. They talked simply about what God did through it all. That was their eyes. It was what God did through it all. So you've got a choice every day. Dwell on the problem, dwell on what you don't have, or dwell on the answer. Dwell on the hardship, or dwell on the victory. Dwell on what people did, or dwell on what God is doing. Same set of circumstances, two people. One is miserable, the other's filled with joy. Why? Because one dwells on the problem, the other dwells on God. When we were in Cuba on a mission, at the very end, it seemed as if nothing was going the way we wanted to. It seemed at the end that everything went wrong. And we're just kind of winging it, hanging out, waiting to go home. But I remember the moment I left the pavement and I stepped into that airplane in Cuba, something came over me. It was the Spirit. It was like all of a sudden I saw everything, like the glory of what God did. And I realized every moment was the step of God. And it was beautiful. It was like everything woven together. And when we got home, things were confirmed. And it was an amazing, awesome journey. So many incredible Book of Acts experience. That's where, when you hear me talk about the story of the man on the mountain and the plate that struck the head of the idol, that's where that happened. That was where there was a drought there. I sounded the shofar. The moment I did, the heavens opened up. God did. We're just like, what's God doing? That's where we were preaching the Jubilee and everybody about returning home to your family's possession. And near the end, nobody planned it. We're brought to minister at a plantation that turns out to be the family land, ancestral land of our translator. That's where we gave the Bible to Fidel Castro. And yet, throughout all the things, sometimes we just got caught up in looking at all the things that weren't going the way we wanted to. Amazing. God can be doing amazing things, and at the time you can miss it with all the details and all the problems. But when you look back, that's where you see it. Just like in your life. Right now, you might look in your life, I'm dealing with this, but look back at your life. Remember this. Look back at your life. If you've been in the Lord long enough, look back at your life. And it is a miracle for God to have taken you from there to where you are now. That's the big picture. Don't forget it. That is the big picture. You know, all these things that happened to Paul, all these things happened to that, it was all for God. It was all for his purposes. See, it's going to be like that in heaven. So why don't you start living in heaven now? Start looking at your life through heaven's eyes. Even as if it was past tense, you're looking back. Hey, what you're going through right now, don't be bound to look. Just know I'm going to be looking back at this and I'm going to be giving thanks for this. Let me start giving thanks for it now. But what hits me here is this verse 26. From there they sailed to Antioch, from which they had been commended to the grace of God for the work that they had accomplished. This, I called it completing your mission. They had now returned, having completed the mission that God had called them to. Happened a lot with Paul. He was sent out many times, returned. Paul accomplished a lot. At the end, he would testify before Caesar. He said at the end, well, we'll get there. You know what? This was a foreshadow. This was the first mission. It would be a foreshadow of Paul's entire life. See, it wasn't just that Paul was on a mission. He went on a mission. Paul's life was a mission. He had a purpose. He had a vision. He had a goal. He knew what he had to accomplish. He focused on that goal. He turned aside from what distracted him, what would go against that goal, from what he would not accomplish, what would keep him from it. Paul did all things in view of his calling and his goal in God, and used everything to accomplish it. He said, by all means, I will use all things that I might lead as many to the Messiah. And he didn't let what was the situations ever determine what he would do for God. If anybody had resistance, he did. Anybody he was put in jail. But he didn't let any situation stop his calling from God. There is no situation that can stop your calling from God if you don't let it stop it. He's the one who said, one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind, I press on to what is ahead, to the upward call. One thing I do, Paul always sought to move forward because he had a purpose and he knew it. That wasn't enough. He knew it, but he also lived that purpose. He had a mission and he set out to fulfill it. He was always setting out. He was always moving forward. He was always going on it. He was never afraid to step out to new things, new journeys. And he had a lot of obstacles and a lot of problems, but he got stoned, he gets up. He's in jail. He shares the gospel to more people to this day than he would ever share in his life. There were many people who would have been stopped by much lesser things. They would have given up. And if they did, they never would have accomplished the purpose that God called them to. Paul never gave up. He kept going. Obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, setback after setback, persecution after persecution, slander after slander against him, even in the church. Attack after attack, he kept going. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.